Hello, kobolds of the internet, and welcome to the Crucible of Character. I'm Cece, and I'll be your host for today's story, which was written by Chonky Penguin on the r/NoSleep subreddit. Here it goes. I used to deliver pizza for Tony's in Brainerd, Minnesota. Decent job for a college student. Flexible hours, cash tips, and most customers were pretty normal. The worst part was driving out to the rural addresses, especially in winter. But the tips were usually worth the extra gas money. This happened in late February, around 10:30 p.m. on a Tuesday, and I was about to close up when we got a last-minute order. Large pepperoni pizza to 4847 Country Road 18. The address was way out in the sticks, probably a 20-minute drive from town. I almost told my manager, Jake, I couldn't take it, but the customer had already paid online with a $15 tip, which was more than I'd make it in tips all night long. Country Road 18 is one of those narrow back roads that cuts through nothing but pine trees and swampland. No street lights, no houses for miles, just forests on both sides. I delivered out there maybe 3 times before, always to different addresses, always to people who seemed grateful that we'd drive that far. I found 4847 without too much trouble. It was a small ranch house set back from the road with a long gravel driveway and a single porch light. The weird thing was, all the other windows were dark. Usually when people ordered pizza, they were watching TV or have some lights on, but this place looked completely dead, except for that one porch light. I grabbed the pizza bag and walked up to the door. There was no doorbell, so I knocked and waited. After about 30 seconds, I knocked again, louder this time. That's when I heard it. Footsteps inside the house, but they sounded wrong somehow. Too heavy. They seemed to be coming from directly above where I was standing, like someone was walking around on the roof, but that didn't make sense because it was a single-story house. The footsteps stopped, and then I heard a voice from inside say, "Just leave it by the door." The voice bothered me. It sounded muffled, like the person was talking through a blanket or from really far away, and it was deeper than I expected. The name on the order was Linda Chen, but this definitely sounded like a man. "I need a signature for the credit card," I called back. That wasn't true. Online orders don't need signatures, but something felt off, and I wanted to see who I was dealing with. Silence for maybe 10 seconds, then, "I'm not feeling well, just leave it." I should have left the pizza and gotten out of there. That's what my gut was telling me. But I was young and stupid and didn't want to get in trouble with Jake for not following protocol. "I really need a signature," I said. "It'll just take a second." More silence, then I heard multiple sets of footsteps inside, all walking in different directions, like there were suddenly 4 or 5 people in there, all moving around at once. The porch light went out. I was standing in complete darkness now, holding a pizza bag, listening to what sounded like a dozen people walking around inside a house that had seemed empty 5 minutes earlier. My phone's flashlight wasn't much help, just created this small circle of light that made everything beyond it look even darker. I started backing towards my car, but then the front door opened. I couldn't see who opened it, because whoever it was stayed back in the shadows, but I could hear breathing. Heavy, labored breathing, like someone who had just finished running a marathon. "Come inside," the voice said. It was definitely the same voice from before, but now it sounded like it was coming from right next to my ear, even though I could tell the person was still standing in the doorway. "I'm good," I said, still backing away. "I'll just leave the pizza here." "Come inside," the voice repeated, and this time I heard it twice, one from the doorway and once from behind me. I turned around and saw a figure standing about 10 feet away, between me and my car. Same height and build as whoever was in the doorway, wearing what looked like a dark coat or jacket in the dim light from my phone. I couldn't make out any facial features. My hands started shaking. I dropped the pizza bag and ran towards the tree line instead of my car. I figured I could circle around through the woods and get back to the road that way. I made it maybe 50 yards into the trees before I tripped over something and went down hard. When I got back up and looked around with my phone light, I realized I'd tripped over another pizza bag. One of ours, with Tony's logo on it, but it looked old and weathered, like it had been sitting out there for months. That's when I started finding the others. There were pizza bags everywhere in those woods, dozens of them, all from Tony's scattered between the trees like some kind of trail. Some looked recent, others were practically falling apart. I found keys hanging from branches, cell phones half buried in dirt, a wallet with a driver's license from 2019. I heard voices calling my name from back towards the house, multiple voices, but they all sounded exactly the same, like the same person talking to themselves. I ran deeper in the woods, following what looked like a deer path. My phone was at 12% battery, and I was trying to conserve it, but I needed the light to see where I was going. After what felt like hours, but was probably only 20 minutes, I found another road. Not Country Road 18, but some other rural route I didn't recognize. I followed it until I saw headlights and flagged down a pickup truck. The driver was this older guy who looked at me like I was crazy when I asked him to call the police. I was covered in dirt, bleeding from scrapes, and probably sounded insane trying to explain what happened. The cops took a report, but when they went to check 4847 Country Road 18, they said the house was abandoned, had been for over 2 years according to the county records. No power, no water, no recent activity. They found my pizza bag on the porch, but that was it. I asked them about the other pizza bags in the woods, but they said they didn't see anything like that. They suggested maybe I had gotten turned around in the dark and imagined some of what I saw. The next day I went to Jake and told him I was quitting. I didn't tell him the real reason, just said I was focusing on school, but I asked him about deliveries to County Road 18, and he got this weird look on his face. "We don't deliver out there anymore," he said. "Haven't for about 3 years. Too many drivers got lost or called in saying weird things happened. Corporate finally put that whole area on the no-delivery list." I asked him why nobody told me that, and he just shrugged. "Thought you knew. That address shouldn't have come through our system." I still live in Brainerd, and sometimes I drive past the turnoff for County Road 18. I've never gone back down that road, but I have talked to other people who have had jobs that require them to go out there. Mail carriers, utility workers, delivery drivers for other companies. Nobody wants to talk about it directly, but I get the impression I'm not the only one who's had a bad experience in that area. The mail carrier told me there are several addresses on County Road 18 that are marked as undeliverable in their system, even though the houses supposedly exist. What bothers me is the online order. Someone had to place it, had to pay for it with a real credit card. I asked Jake if he could look up the payment information, but he said corporate handles all the online transactions, and they don't keep local records. I still check Tony's delivery area on their website sometimes. County Road 18 is marked as outside their service zone now, just like Jake said, but every few months I get curious and type in 4847 County Road 18 as a delivery address. Sometimes it says the address is outside the delivery area, but sometimes, and this is what really gets to me, sometimes it accepts the address and lets me add items to the cart, like the system can't decide if the place exists or not. I've never placed an order, obviously, but I wonder who would show up to deliver it if I did. Well, that was a pretty good story. One from a pizza driver, it seems like, of course. Now, I know that if I was in that situation, I probably would have done just about the exact same. It was really smart to try and find another road, and especially to get to that truck. And it's super interesting that the address sometimes pulls up, but also sometimes doesn't. I think that at the end of the day, this was a pretty smart person, and all being honest, I think they would probably make it in a horror movie, or at least not be the first one to die because they went inside the house, that's for sure. What would you have done in this situation? Anything differently, or do you think you'd do something similar? Has anyone out there had a similar experience or anything like that? I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. If you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe. It means a whole lot to me. And I will catch you in the forge next time. Later, my kobolds.